Dr. John Sampson, and welcome to our Culture Show, where we will present informative perspectives to contemporary cultural matters that we all should be knowledgeable about. We're going to briefly discuss today what Kwanzaa is in a way that will assist those who have not yet figured out how to incorporate Kwanzaa into their holiday season. We will discuss why African Americans should consider practicing Kwanzaa and how we here in my community are commemorating Kwanzaa in a very unique way, in using it to center the African American community and to educate, especially our youth, about the importance of cultural principles, cultural value, and cultural history. We're also going to talk a little bit about how to invite and incorporate first and second generation Africans, Caribbean immigrants, and others within the Black diaspora into your Kwanzaa program so that you can also help them in dispelling misconceptions that they may have about Kwanzaa. And finally, once you get your Kwanzaa ceremony stabilized and established over a number of years, we're going to talk a little bit about inviting allies of the African community to share in Kwanzaa. At the end, we will do a reaction viewing of the trailer to a Kwanzaa movie, The Black Candle, a Kwanzaa celebration. Please don't forget to give us a like. It's always more comfortable to do the same thing over and over every year. Let's do Santa Claus, a Christmas tree. If you're Muslim, maybe you practice something different. But just do the same thing every year. Starting a new tradition, that's a little bit more daunting. But here in the United States, we as a people lost a lot when we were brought here. We were disconnected from our traditions. And Kwanzaa, think of it as a resistance to the imposition of Eurocentric ways of understanding and engaging the world. It's been recognized. The Obamas do it. A lot of celebrities do it. The 2016 U.S. Postal Service began incorporating Kwanzaa stamps into the postal stamp system. But more importantly, Kwanzaa is something that you can do to help align your children with cultural information, education, knowledge, communication, and principles. We've all seen all over the United States that there's protests in school boards against the inclusion of African American history, African American cultural aspects, just basic facts relating to our presence in the United States. People want to suppress that. They don't want their children to hear about it because they're concerned that their children might feel bad by hearing what their ancestors did to our ancestors. Look, we can continue to just beg others for inclusion and beg others to teach our children what we should be in teaching more intensively and more in depth in our own families. And Kwanzaa is one step in that direction. It's not an end-all to be-all. It's one step in that direction. And I think that in of itself is really enough reason to start a Kwanzaa tradition. Everything had to start at some time. And a brother during the 1960s started Kwanzaa. And it's developed. But you can develop your own Kwanzaa tradition within your own family. And here where I live in Havre de Grace, Maryland, we developed a very unique Kwanzaa tradition. What we do is we actually invite our African brothers and sisters from Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, Liberia, different parts of the continent to join us. And since many people are just learning about Kwanzaa, many of the people, then a lot of what we're doing is educating people and dispelling misconceptions about what they may think around Kwanzaa. And then if you're doing it with your family in your home, you would actually do a different Kwanzaa principle every day of the week, correlating with the principle for that day. But if you're doing a community Kwanzaa event where you're actually inviting people over for one particular day where you're going to sort of, introduce people to Kwanzaa, then I think it's a good idea to go over all of the principles and all of the days during that event so that people can learn more about it. Well, just imagine what we do is we actually invite each of the guests to say what each of the principles means to them, why it's significant to them, to draw something from their history, from their background, to contribute to the discussion of Kwanzaa, to the event of Kwanzaa. And then we do a special commemoration for whatever Kwanzaa day that happens to fall upon. But then if we may ask a person from who has a farm in North Carolina or who grew up in a farm to talk about cooperative economics as relates to their experience in a farm or starting a business. We may ask someone with a religious background what, in terms of Imani, faith, what faith means to them. What does faith mean to you? Someone, when they're presented with the principle Nia for purpose, they may want to talk about their calling in life. I'm a physician, so I might talk about my calling for treating patients, for practicing medicine. Well, whatever their calling is, whether it correlates with their occupation or whether it's something else, they talk about what Nia means to them. If they grew up or from Africa, then we actually encourage them to talk about what the principle means to them as relates to what they can remember from when they were on the continent. And that's one of the unique things that we do. Another unique thing that we do is we actually hold now, we used to start our Kwanzaa event at my home, but now we actually have our Kwanzaa event at what's called the Havre de Grace Colored School Museum and Cultural Center. And this was a previously segregated school that this community has reclaimed and developed into a museum. And we think that because of its historical significance, it's a great place for us to have a Kwanzaa event, invite the community, and let them learn about the local Black history in the community, as well as relating it to the overall Kwanzaa. Next, if your Kwanzaa event starts to grow and develop and stabilize, then there are allies to the African diaspora community that would be interested in learning more about Kwanzaa, and I think that's a great opportunity for inviting them in.
Young women, young men of color, come up from the gloom of national neglect you have already been paid for. Come out of the shadow of irrational prejudices. You owe no racial debt to history. The blood of our bodies and the prayers of our souls have bought for you a future without shame, bright beyond the telling of.
Kwanzaa means access. It means access to yourself. It means access to your people.
Kwanzaa is like renewing your annual membership to community, to your families, to your culture, and most importantly, to yourself.
Kwanzaa is expressed throughout the world now by people of African heritage who want to have that cultural connectedness.
These are principles of what we're supposed to be doing 365. You know what I mean? And how we treat each other and how we look at the world.
We did not petition or ask for permission to celebrate,
We did it by Kujichakulia, self-determination. We determined that this was good for us. We determined that we were going to celebrate.
A people without knowledge of its past is like a tree without roots. People who don't know their history, that don't know where they came from, definitely can't figure out where they're going.
That is our task, to know our past and honor it, and to imagine our good future and to forge it.
Through Kwanzaa and through the 7 principles, you teach the next generation to elevate themselves.
It's your world. Your time to tell the world how you feel about this world and what you're going to do for yourself. It's really up to you to save your own self.
You are the best we have. You are all we have. You are what we have become. It is time to remember.
It is not merely a holiday. It is a statement about a people, where they were going, and where they continue to go.
Please take the time to log on to YouTube and watch the entire movie, The Black Candle.